So there's more trouble brewing at the ABC. They're losing viewers, got all sorts of strife. They're losing some pretty prominent hosts too, but they're lashing out at Sophie Ellsworth, the media writer for The Australian. She'll join me later. You won't want to miss that. Let me bring in now, though, Katie Woolf, the host of Mornings on Mix 104 in Darwin, and Christy McSweeney, PR Council Managing Director. Thanks both for joining me. I've got to ask you first up, just before we move on with this next topic, when's the last time you used cash? When's the last time you paid cash for something, Katie?
I've always got a stash of cash, Chris, mostly so my husband doesn't know how much money I've spent on Christmas presents. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that do always have a small stash. But a lot of, like I've actually spoken about this on air quite a bit recently, and a lot of seniors do always have that cash, and they've always got that little bit of cash because they're a bit untrusting as well of using FPOS and of technology failing them. So I think it's quite absurd that we're now talking about the possibility of having some kind of fee to use cash.
Yeah, it's unreal. What about you, Christy? When's the last time you pulled out some notes?
Well, Chris, I am a frequenter of nail salons across Australia, and a lot of them enjoy being members of what the coalition government did a report into what we call the black economy, and it's estimated to be about $50 billion in Australia. I don't think they accounted for nail salons, but they certainly accounted for major industries like building and construction, for example, and moved policy and financial services towards digitisation. But of course, many businesses and many people, Katie's right, particularly elderly people, prefer to use cash. And it's not just people engaging in tax offsets and running nail salons and illegal tobacco stores. It is necessary for a lot of people.
It sure is. It sure is. I always try and carry a bit of cash around, thinking that I used to think I'd need it for the sausage sizzle or the bacon and egg sandwich at my kids' footy, but even that's all swipe your phone and whatever these days. But it is a problem. As we were saying, that there's this push on. We all know we get charged extra fees for using our credit cards. Well, now they're talking about the possibility of actually charging us for the privileges of using our own cash, which I think is outrageous. It should be our right to use cash. But the Reserve Bank governor says she understands the logic of this, although she does admit that it might create a bit of a kerfuffle. Have a look.
If you try to charge people to use cash, they're prepared to pay to get it out of an ATM, but if businesses started charging people to use cash, I suspect there would be a very big backlash.
Yeah, be a backlash. All right, Katie. We're not prepared to pay, by the way, Reserve Bank Governor. We're not prepared to pay to get cash out of an ATM. We hate paying to get our own money. It's just what the banks do to us.
Exactly. That's exactly right. We've got no choice. In fact, I try to go whichever ATM I know that I can go to without having to pay that fee. And I know that that probably seems extreme. It's not that I'm counting, $2 here and $2 there, but it's more that I actually don't want to give that money to the bank. I don't want to, to be paying that fee. And I think if we get to a point where you're charging people to use cash, it is absurd. And how is that going to impact people like senior Australians who, especially if you're somebody that's potentially on the pension or is counting your dollars, if you're then going to force them to pay, I just think it's a ridiculous idea. And I've had enough of being told by people that are earning a lot more money than everyday Australians how we should and shouldn't be able to spend our money.
Yeah, it's an absolute shocker. So it feeds into this whole cost of living issue, I think, Christy, as well, because we're just copying it from all directions. I've been talking a lot tonight about how customers and how we're all being squeezed on electricity prices. And then here, you're talking about people who like to use their own cash. They understand cash. They have their own savings in cash. And there's the threat of them being charged for the convenience of using it. And also, there's a survey out today from Woolies, sort of unsurprisingly, showing that 40% of Australians think next year's going to get even tougher. I mean, it's really, really difficult at the front lines, especially for people on fixed incomes, and they're not looking forward to next year. They reckon the cost of living is going to get even worse, Christy.
Well, particularly in this period towards Christmas where people are budgeting. And how do we teach our children to manage money? We generally teach them, OK, well, here is the amount of money that you have and you need to pay for this, for this, for this, for this. And people use that as a tool to show their children the eroding pattern of cash as you have to keep paying for things. And that's how children learn. And of course, in this cashless society, we've got kids running up bills on mum and dad's credit card or even credit cards that they've been able to get at age 18 on Uber Eats, on gaming platforms, and getting themselves into significant debt via digital society that they participate in and don't have the tools to manage correctly. I mean, how are these kids going to go in the future with cost of living the way it is? I'm not surprised Australians are responding to multiple surveys saying that there is no relief. I can't see any relief. The government seems to be putting their head in the sand in terms of giving people real, tangible direction in terms of when inflation is going to be reduced, when interest rates might subside a little bit, when the price at the supermarket is going to feel a bit easier for people to take.
Let's hope. I like to be an optimist. I'm hoping for a good 2024. I'm hoping for a Crows premiership and a little bit of relief on the cost of living, but we will see. It's been great speaking to both of you throughout the year. I just wonder if we can wrap up to get a little bit on your highlights and lowlights for the year. Why don't you start off for us, Katie? Did anything stand out as a highlight or a lowlight?
Oh, a low light for me is obviously the situation that we've seen in the Territory when it comes to crime, and we all reported on it earlier in the year in Alice Springs. Look, things aren't a lot better, despite what the governments of all tiers might like to think, but that's a real low light, I think, for me and a lot of people that live in regional Australia when you're grappling with issues like crime. I think the highlights, you see those stories of Aussies helping each other out, and we talk about them very often on my radio show, but even over the last couple of days, as you see what's going on in far north Queensland, and you see each other, people helping each other. Absolutely. And they're out there rescuing each other, and they're out there, showing that true Aussie spirit. And that's what I love about Australia, is that spirit, and you see it when we're at our lowest points.
Sure do, Katie. Well said. Christy, very quickly, high and low?
Highlight, no matter which way you voted in the referendum, I thought it was fantastic to see Australian women lead advocacy for their particular point of view. Coalition, obviously, it was the great rising of Senator Jacinta Price, and on the Labor side, Linda Burney led the charge for the advocacy from her perspective. So it was wonderful to see Australian women lead such a huge political moment in Australia, no matter which way you voted. I think we can have that as a takeaway. The low light for me, the cancellation of the Commonwealth Games in Victoria. I feel desperately sorry
good point.
for all the athletes,
the national shame,
tourism operators, businesses in Victoria who were led so far down the garden path by the Andrews/Allen government. It is bordering on misleading the public to the most significant degree.
Yeah. Great point. Great point, Christy. What a shame on the nation that was. Thanks so much to both of you for being part of the program throughout the year. Look forward to catching up next year. Katie Woolf there and Christy McSweeney.